Your dog has been trying to tell you something for years. Not with a bark, not with a whimper, with something so quiet, so ordinary, that you have almost certainly looked right through it every single time it happened. Picture this. You are at the vet. The waiting room is fluorescent lit and smells like antiseptic. The dog in the next seat is straining at his leash. A door opens somewhere and slams. The receptionist calls a name that isn't yours. Your dog sits beside you, perfectly still, and then, with no warning, opens his mouth in a long, slow, luxurious yawn. Eyes half closed, the whole jaw unhinging. You glance down and think, I guess he's tired. You weren't wrong to think that. It's the most obvious explanation in the world. But here is what's actually happening inside that yawn. Here is what every behavioral researcher who has spent serious time studying canine communication now believes your dog is doing in that moment, and why the answer reshapes something fundamental about every quiet afternoon you've spent together. If your dog has ever done something like that, something you brushed off as nothing, this video is going to change how you see it. Stay with me. And if you want more of this kind of science, subscribe before we go any further. There's a lot more to your dog than you've been told. The two things most people believe about a dog's yawn are reasonable. They're also, in most cases, incomplete. The first belief, your dog is sleepy. Yawning equals fatigue. It is the same equation we apply to ourselves, so we apply it to them. The second belief, your dog is bored. You've been sitting in that waiting room for 20 minutes, and nothing interesting has happened. Dogs get bored. Of course they yawn. Both of these things can be true. Dogs do yawn when they're tired. Dogs do yawn when their environment stops offering stimulation. But sleep researchers and animal behaviorists have been pointing at something for decades that most dog owners still haven't heard, which is that in dogs, the yawn has a second life entirely. A parallel function that runs deeper than oxygen intake and has nothing to do with drowsiness. Turid Rugas, a Norwegian dog trainer and behavioral researcher who spent more than 30 years documenting hundreds of hours of dog-to-dog and dog-to-human interaction, cataloged something she called calming signals, a vocabulary of subtle physical behaviors that dogs use to regulate social tension. Rugas identified more than 30 of these signals. The yawn was among the most powerful. What she found wasn't just that dogs yawned. It was when they yawned. And when you understand that, you start watching your dog differently. In 1997, Rugas published a study through the Norwegian College of Animal Behavior that would eventually form the backbone of canine communication research for the following 2 decades. Over years of direct observation and film analysis, she documented dogs yawning in situations with a specific and recurring pattern. Not at the end of a long walk, not curled on a warm couch, but at moments of elevated social pressure. A dog being approached too fast by a stranger. A dog whose owner was speaking to them in a raised or tense voice. A dog placed in close proximity to another dog it hadn't chosen to engage with. In each of these scenarios, the yawn appeared not as a marker of sleepiness, but as a release valve. A biological signal deployed in the exact moment that internal tension needed somewhere to go. Rugas called this a displacement signal. The term comes from ethology, the scientific study of animal behavior, and it describes an action that interrupts one emotional state before it can escalate into a more extreme one. The yawn in this framework is not the body saying I need rest. It is the nervous system saying I need a moment. Think about what this means for the scene at the vet. Your dog wasn't bored. He was reading the room, the antiseptic smell, the straining dog, the slamming door, and his nervous system was doing exactly what it evolved to do. It was opening a pressure valve. It was self-regulating before the tension could become something harder to manage. And here is the layer that makes this even more specific. In 1997, veterinary behaviorist Karen Overall at the University of Pennsylvania's School of Veterinary Medicine began documenting what she called the morphological distinction in canine yawning. The difference in the face between a tired yawn and a stress yawn. A sleep yawn tends to be slower, fuller, often accompanied by a full-body stretch. The dog's eyes close completely. The posture softens. A stress yawn is different. It tends to be sharper in onset. The eyes don't fully close. They often dart slightly before or after. The body doesn't stretch. If anything, it stays loaded, still monitoring the environment. The mouth opens and closes faster. If you know what you're looking for, you can learn to read the difference in under a second. Your dog has been showing you his stress yawn for years. Now you know what it looks like. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the yawn isn't just directed inward. It's also directed at you. In 2011, Linda Hanlon and her team at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences published a study in the journal Hormones and Behavior that measured cortisol and oxytocin levels in dogs during a range of human interaction scenarios. What they found confirmed what behavioral researchers had long suspected. Dogs in socially pressured environments. Close physical contact without the option to disengage, prolonged eye contact from a stranger, overstimulating environments show measurable cortisol spikes. Stress. Real, biological, quantifiable stress. Now connect that to Ruga's calming signal framework. The yawn isn't just a private response. Ruga's documented dozens of cases in which dogs directed their yawns toward the source of their discomfort, toward the stranger moving too fast, toward the other dog crowding their space, toward the owner crouching too close, speaking too loudly, holding too long. The yawn, in these moments, functions as a social signal, an outward communication. Your dog is not just self-soothing. Your dog is talking to you. And the message is, I need a little space. I'm not threatening you. I'm not panicking. But I need this moment to reset. Think about the last time you leaned in too close to your dog's face. Nose to nose, the way people do with puppies, the way people do when they want a photograph. Did your dog yawn? Turn their head slightly to the side. Look away. This is not rejection. This is negotiation. This is your dog using the most polite, non-escalatory tool in their behavioral vocabulary to say, I'm with you. I'm just not with this right now. There's a 2014 study from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln that extends this further into the territory of dog-to-dog de-escalation. Alicia Butner and Richard Strasser studied 84 dogs across multiple interaction scenarios, specifically examining whether yawning functions as a contagion signal, spreading emotional state from one animal to another, and whether it correlated with empathy-like responses in social settings. What they found was that dogs who yawned in response to social tension were significantly less likely to escalate to growling, snapping, or avoidance behavior in the same interaction. The yawn was functioning as a tactical peace offering, a visual apology, a gesture that said to another dog or to you, I see this is tense. I am choosing soft. That choice, and it is worth sitting with the fact that it is a choice, not just a reflex, is something that evolved over roughly 15,000 years of living alongside humans. And that evolution is the part that changes everything. Dogs are the only non-human species known to look to humans for social referencing, to check our faces the way a toddler checks a parent's face to decide whether a new situation is safe. That capacity for reading human emotional states didn't emerge from wolves. It was sculpted by domestication. It is the direct result of dogs and humans spending tens of thousands of years learning each other's languages from the inside out. The yawn is not a primitive reflex that survived domestication. It is a sophisticated social tool that was refined by it. And this is where the science in 2026 takes us somewhere genuinely surprising. In 2013, Teresa Romero and her colleagues at the University of Tokyo published a study in PLOS One that would reshape how researchers think about the emotional life of dogs. They recruited 25 dogs and exposed each one to yawns from two categories of humans, their own owner and a stranger. They measured the rate of contagious yawning, how often the dog yawned in response, and tracked behavioral markers of emotional engagement. The finding was specific and striking. Dogs yawned contagiously in response to their owner's yawns at significantly higher rates than in response to a stranger's yawns. This wasn't about the visual stimulus of a gaping mouth. It was about the relationship. Contagious yawning, the researchers concluded, is a marker of empathic resonance. It requires emotional attunement to the other individual. And dogs, it turns out, are attuned to you in a way they simply are not attuned to strangers. A newer study from 2026, Verify, attributed to Zaniletti et al., possibly University of Pisa, Animal Cognition or Scientific Reports, search for primary source before recording, extends Romero's framework into what the researchers describe as cross-species emotional synchrony. The preliminary findings suggest that the rate at which a dog catches a yawn from their owner correlates meaningfully with bond strength as measured by a standardized attachment scale. Dogs with secure, high-bond attachment scores yawned contagiously at nearly twice the rate of dogs with lower attachment scores when exposed to their owner's yawn. The researchers' interpretation: contagious yawning in dogs is not mimicry. It is a neurological signature of emotional closeness. So what do you do with all of this? What does it mean for the way you interact with your dog starting today? The first thing to understand is the difference between a stress yawn that needs a response and one that is simply the dog's nervous system doing its job. If your dog yawns once in a mildly stimulating environment, a busy street, a new person entering the house, and then settles, that is healthy self-regulation. The pressure valve worked. You don't need to intervene. What you can do is notice it, honor it by giving them a moment, and avoid escalating the situation. If the yawning is repetitive 3, 4, 5 yawns in rapid succession in a single interaction, that is a signal worth taking seriously. Sustained stress yawning, particularly when accompanied by other displacement behaviors like lip licking, blinking, or a low, slow tail, indicates that the dog's self-regulation system is working hard and may need external relief. In these situations, the single most effective thing you can do is turn slightly sideways. Don't face the dog directly. Lower your center of gravity if you can. Stop talking. Let the environment go quiet. And then, and this is the part that sounds almost too simple, yawn back. Behavioral research on mimicry communication suggests that voluntarily mirroring a dog's calming signal in the moment it is offered reads, at the neurological level, as recognition. You are not just giving the dog space. You are speaking their language. You are saying, I received your signal. I am responding in kind. The interaction between two individuals who are now both communicating in the same register can slow down and find its own equilibrium. This is not a trick. It is not training. It is translation. There is a version of dog ownership that is essentially custodial. Feed them. Walk them. Keep them safe. Love them in the large and simple way that doesn't require much interpretation. Most of us start there. It's enough. It's more than enough for a lot of dogs a lot of the time. But there is another version. One that becomes available to you the moment you start reading the language underneath the behavior. The moment you stop seeing a yawn as nothing and start seeing it as a sentence. Your dog has a vocabulary. It is not built from words. It is built from the orientation of a body, the pace of a breath, the brief soft opening of a jaw in a room full of noise. And every time your dog has yawned in your direction, in the vet's waiting room, during the argument you had on the phone, in the middle of the holiday gathering where everyone was talking too loudly and the music was too bright, every single time, they were not absent. They were present. They were managing. They were telling you what they needed, in the only language they have. The Romero study from Tokyo found that dogs catch yawns from the people they love. Not from strangers. Not from dogs. From the specific human being they have chosen to be close to. Think about what it means that your dog catches your yawn. It means your nervous system and theirs are, in some measurable neurological sense, linked. When you are tired, they feel it. When you are tense, they feel that too. They have been synchronized to you, not by training, but by time. By 15,000 years of interspecies attention, paid in both directions. The yawn is not a small thing. It never was. It is a window, and it has been open the whole time. Your dog's yawn is a language. A real one with grammar and intent and emotional weight behind every gesture. Once you learn to read it, you cannot unlearn it, and the relationship on the other side of that knowledge is a different one than the one you had before. If you want to keep learning the science behind what your dog is actually doing when it does the things you've always explained away, subscribe. That's what this channel is built for. And leave a comment before you go. I'm genuinely curious. Does your dog yawn at you during tense moments? Have you ever yawned back without thinking about it? Tell me what happened. Next time, we're going somewhere quieter, but just as strange. The science of where your dog chooses to sleep, and what that choice reveals about the hierarchy they've built in their mind. The research behind it is older than you'd expect, and the answer is not what most trainers will tell you.